Again, when you left there was all this. I mean, I read it and I heard Brent left. He stormed off. He just tell us about just leaving because it was just one day. You're not there anymore. Howard doesn't even really mention it. Tell us a little bit about that week where you actually have to tell them. And you're telling me it was fine. I had an idea, but tell us a little bit about that ending.
Yeah. So as much as I can tell you. Here's what I can tell you. I just went to the powers that be and said, this is what I'm thinking. And then, like I said, I can't really get into detail, but there was a lot of back and forth. And then, we worked out an amicable deal where we can all shake hands and walk away friends. But I left. And here's the thing is lots of people say, oh, he was fired. I wouldn't be able to legally say that I was not fired. If I was fired, I'd legally, if you know anything about corporate exit agreements, it would cost me a shit ton of money if I was fired and I went out there and said I wasn't fired. It just would. It was just, I wasn't. I have no ill will towards SiriusXM. They have no ill will towards me. Same with the Stern Show. I just wanted out of New York. I wanted out of the cold. I wanted to do my own thing, and I wanted to move back into the tropics. So I'm only going to live one of three places the rest of my life, either the Tampa Bay area, New Orleans, or out in the Venice Beach, Santa Monica area of California. That's it. Those are the only three places I'm really interested in living. So I wanted to get back here, and I wanted to do my thing, and coronavirus played a small role into it. I'd say 10 to 15%. That pushed me over the edge. I was like, this is getting ready to get real bad in New York. I told my wife, real bad. So once I signed my exit agreement in mid-March, we weren't going to move to the end of March. We moved it up 2.5 weeks and said, we're getting out of New York area right now. So we packed everything up and we hauled ass down here. And luckily enough, I had a friend that could let me stay with him until I got an apartment let me stay with him for about a month and a half till I got this beautiful apartment for, it's a third of what I was paying in Jersey City. So in Jersey City, I had a 600 square foot apartment. Here, I've got over 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, huge, in the sweetest part of St. Pete. And it's the rent's almost nothing. We got used to paying New York prices. I'm like, really? That's what you want for this apartment? Where do I sign the lease and how long can I sign for? So I'm just much happier now.
Yeah, my goal is to be a neighbor of yours, at least in the winter, and that's what my wife and I are trying to live vicariously through you as we I don't know if we'll be coming over.
St. Pete, Brad.
Yeah.
St. Pete. That's where you want to be.
we like the West Palm, Jupiter area, kind of. That's where the Cardinals have spring training. Yeah, it's beautiful over there. It's a little more expensive, but we'll figure out a way. I'm amazed. I was looking at that because I think March 11th may have been your last day, and I'm fairly certain March 13th was the day the NBA shut down. So, I mean, that is crazy that it happened like that because we were me and my wife and my stepson were going to Disney World that next week, and she's like, I don't know if it's, she's like, they're going to close it. And we're like, everyone's like, they're not closing Disney World. It's like, they don't close Florida, Clark, and they, son of a bitch, closed goddamn Disney World. So she knew about it before then. Do you get a chance? You made it sound like you don't even really want to talk to Howard, even when you're trying to do work. So I'm assuming there's been no contact with him since, right? Or has there?
When I left, there was contact with him, and he was, it could not have been nicer. I wish I could get on here and read you the note that he sent me and the note that I sent him. As a human being, he's a sweet human being. I love him and Beth as people. They are great people. And he sent me a beautiful note when I left. And I'm just not going to bug the guy, obviously. But I do keep in contact with almost everybody there. Just because they're friends. They've been friends of mine since 04, 05. So it's been a lot of years that I've known these people. So, and in the business, it's a small business, and once Howard retires or they trickle out and leave and go do some other stuff, who knows who might work together or who will be on whose shows. So I just try to stay in contact with everybody.
Yeah. So with Bubba, you weren't obviously up at Sirius that much. And then you joined in 2014, so you didn't really get to be around Artie Lange a lot, but I always love to ask anybody who was around Artie Lange, do you have a good Artie Lange story? He did come to Bubba's wedding. It became a huge, great story for both shows, I'm assuming. And he would call in, too, every once in a while. Did you get to know Artie real well?
Yeah, I did, actually. And even when I was leaving Bubba's show, he was one of the people that I talked to on the phone, and he kind of was like, Brent, you're going to be fine. You're going to be great. Everything's awesome. So I love Artie. Artie is one of my favorite people in the world. Like, the guy is a sweetheart, and he's got a huge heart. And I feel for him for any of the pain that he's in. And I've told him personally up at Sirius when I've seen him up there, even with any of the bullshit he was going through with some of the people from the show not liking him, I just pulled him aside and said, hey, man, if you ever need anything, just give me, and I just texted him this the other day. If you ever need anything, support, or even somebody to talk to as a friend, just give me a call, because he was there for me when I needed somebody too. So, but the funny story is at Bubba's wedding, Artie had money on the Saints. The Saints were playing the Eagles in the playoffs. Artie had money on the Saints, and we're both looking at our BlackBerries at that time to get scores. So I'm like, Artie, there's a sports bar like right across the street. We can go hang right over there. And he's like, okay, let's go. So Artie and I go over there. I get me a big, huge, tall whiskey sour, and I'm sitting there with Artie, who's stressing about money. Like, it's right on the edge of the Saints covering or not. And then I turn around, and there's everybody behind me, Tim Sabian and Gary, and like Scott Farrell. Everybody has come across the street and is with Artie and I partying. So later on that night, after everything's over and Artie lost money, he goes, hey, man, I'm still glad. I'm glad because I'm a Saints fan. He's like, I'm glad your team won, even though I lost money. And I was like, hey, we're getting ready to go take some coke and go hang out with strippers. You want to come with us? And he was like, Brent, if I started doing coke, we'd wind up in St. Louis by the end of the night. I was like, okay, understood. I just wanted to be hospitable. So he turned down that, but a group of us did go out with the strippers and the coke that night.
Good for you. You did say you texted him. I know he's coming out of hiding a little bit. Have you talked to him or had any conversations with him via text in the last couple months?
No, I texted him the other day. I've got 2 numbers for him. I texted him to both of them just to tell him I hope he's doing well and if he needs anything. I haven't heard back from him, but I just wanted to reach out and let him know, man, I'm here for you if you need me, brother. And I love Artie. He's one of the most talented people that I've ever heard on the radio, and his stand-up is just fantastic. So, great fucking guy. Love him.
Yeah, I've met him a couple times. I love that a lot of his punchlines ended with having a coked out in St. Louis, or he had a sandwich thrown at him at this place at the Funny Bone. So he's had some fun here. Probably too much fun than he probably will be wanting to talk about in the future. But yeah, we love Artie. Were you around for Scott the Engineer's exit? I think that was after you, right?
No, that was before me. Scott actually in the last few months sat right next to me in the office with myself and Shuli, and who else was in there? Mike Fox. So, huge office. He sat next to me, and Scott's one of the people in life outside the Stern Show or whatever. He's just one of the people in life I feel bad for Scott, and I used to tell Scott this all the time in person, so this is no secret.
Does he want to hear that? Because but he's been said. They've been calling him a loser for all these years, and you're like, I feel so bad for you. It's funny, but
I did. I told him, I feel bad for you, brother. And I said, Scott, the only thing I want for you is you to have 5 minutes of enjoyment in your entire life, because he really is that down on himself, and I think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You get down and people tell you you're a loser, and you get into a downward spiral, and it gets in your head. And I tried with him. I told him, like, Scott, I love you. You're a great guy. Like, don't let any of this stuff get you down. And, he's somebody that's run into some bad luck and things like that. But I love Scott. I really, really do. I think he's a great guy.
What was that day like when he's not sitting there the next day? I mean, that just seemed like the weirdest one of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just weird to me because I had no idea what happened. I hadn't even heard. I was like, what's going on? They're like, you didn't hear? I was, no. So it was just weird. It was weird, and it just made me incredibly sad because I love Scott, and he'd been with the show for so long, and I just think that he should have been able to retire or whatever he wanted to do in his time, because he really did put his heart into the show for a lot of years.
Well, I hope one day he wants to talk here, because I think he would be fun to talk to and hear his story. But I'm not sure he's not sure he's going to be telling it soon. So we're wrapping up a little bit. Again, I appreciate your time. I guess I have to ask, because it's out, the jackhammer. That wasn't a big thing, right? That had nothing to do with you leaving the Stern Show. And everybody reads it, they go,
no. Here's the deal. My wife and I are swingers. That's what goes on in the swinging community. Like, this kind of stuff goes on all the time. Like, this past weekend, we were down in Fort Myers with a huge group of people at a huge Halloween orgy. Like, we are swingers. That's what goes on. None of that stuff upsets me. Like, it really doesn't. Like, he's actually a pretty friendly guy. I went out to LA. I had a couple of chicks, and my wife is friendly with one of the chicks that I was with out in LA. That's what goes on in swinging. We're easygoing. That's just like something that I'm into isn't going to upset me. That's, you know what I'm saying? The people that say that are projecting their feelings onto me. That's not my feelings. My wife will tell you I'm like not a jealous person at all. In fact, the all these situations that we get into really are a turn on for me. It's not me getting upset. So the jackhammer had nothing to do with us leaving. Nothing whatsoever. And you know, he's a nice enough guy, but swinging lifestyle, you meet, it's a dime a dozen, man. You meet lots of people. So, but that's what we are. That's what we do. We swing. Big deal.
I mentioned Scott the engineer. I believe he had an episode of swinging way back in the. Did you guys have a chance to discuss?
He came up to me after the first time I went on the air and talked about it. He came up to me and he goes, "Hello, my fellow swinger." Yeah, he used to do the key parties, like where they would go, like you put your hotel room key in different bowls and just be random. Now that I don't know if I could actually do. Like I need some time, and this is going to sound very chickish of me. I need some time to talk to the woman and kind of get worked up and into it. Like, and if a woman's not cool and doesn't have a cool personality, like I'm out. And that's what I've learned that I like. I need to, like this past Halloween, like the party was at a regular bar from 8 to 12, so you couldn't really do anything. So it gave me a chance to like mingle and socialize with everybody. And then when it was time to get back to the house and get down to business, like I was comfortable with everybody. So yeah, it's a fun lifestyle, but people that aren't in it have some really serious misperceptions about what goes on and the jealousy of the guys in it. Because the guys in the swingers lifestyle are not jealous. Trust me, we have these conversations amongst ourselves all
Crazy
the time.
office. What was it like just for you as there was these changes? We all have heard of MARCI coming through. I don't know if she dealt with you guys as much, but what was it like for you?
Honestly, it felt like the beginning of the end. It felt odd. It felt everything that the show was great for was being changed. And we all were sort of looking at each other, rolling our eyes, going, what the hell is happening?
Doug, was that across the board? You know, news department feels it. The TV department feels it. The wrap-up show.
Listen, I won't name names, but everyone was just in disbelief and shaking their head after that summit. And when certain people came on board, it was just, what the
Look,
it was bizarre. It was
the part about the summit that I liked was that Howard was pushing for more guests. And there was a real attitude towards guests before that. You know, Gary would never look for guests, and Howard would not want him to do that. And he used to always shock me. I'm like, hey, this guy's in town. Why aren't we getting them on? But Howard just had this different take. If they want to come on, they know where to find us. And so I enjoyed that part of that summit where Howard was saying, hey, we're going to go out and get the guests for once and have a actual booker for the show. But it was the rest of the stuff that was odd.
Yeah, what were those last days like as you're watching Howard say, yeah, I have an idea. We're going to get rid of Howard TV, but I have an idea. What was it like? Because it happened on the air. He didn't tell anybody, as usual.
Yeah, I mean, we all were shocked. First thing I did is I turned around and looked at Doug, and Doug sort of seemed dumbfounded too. I mean, so we had heard, I had been through probably 5 or 6 contract negotiations, whether it be radio or TV along the way. So I always just assumed that, you know, this is just going to be another one of those negotiations. But when he said it was going away, I still didn't believe it. I sort of was like, he's really negotiating, you know. But then as we heard more, and then Howard took us, had a little brief meeting with us after the show, that it seemed real. And I was like, oh, this doesn't sound good. But I still hoped that someone would come in. I thought, he's doing the radio show. Why wouldn't he want the free money to do the television show? We didn't ask for anything of him. You know, he literally just had to do the show, and we would handle the television part. So I really thought it would come back, and it didn't. And I've heard various reasons for that, but who knows?
So I'll let either of you answer this because it's probably difficult, but it now is being done the exact same way you guys did it. You set the template, and Sirius puts out clips, and it's basically done through Sirius. Why? I mean, my question would honestly be, why didn't they just ask you guys back? Or did you think there was something there that they didn't want this group back? They want to do their own?
No, that's a good question. I mean, it did take 3+ years for them to get back and do it. I think there was just like one intern or someone just pressing buttons, and it was like that for a while. The only way I saw it is, and I don't know how else to see it, is the clips on Twitter. And I would call Scott and be like, I can't even watch more than 10 seconds of this. It's just, they're destroying it. It's definitely gotten a lot better since with the clips I've seen. They've definitely put some meat into it and good production quality. But at the beginning, I mean, it took years before they had, I think what Scott was saying, we just thought there would be, just like we went from E to In Demand, there'd be a seamless transition. And that transition didn't happen. And it took years for anyone to come and pick it up. And that's, I don't know if you could say no one picked it up and Sirius took it over, or I don't know what happened there, but that's what happened.
They had our phone numbers. They knew how to get in touch with us. I'm curious to this day why they didn't, whether it be, I've thought of everything. Was I too political? What did Howard, was he not into the arguing anymore? Did MARCI think we were bad for their culture there? So did we get paid too much? I don't know. It could have been any reason, but they never called. They called for one thing, to help. I'll tell you a story. After we had just left, Gary asked Doug and I to help with the birthday show that was coming up. Howard's big, 60th birthday party, I think. So we had been through those. Doug always ran the whole, practically the guts of the behind the scenes of the show. So he and I went in, took a meeting in the city, and I told him, here's where you're going to want Howard. Here's where you're going to want the stage, blah, blah, blah. I told him a bunch of stuff. Doug then went, put all the finances together and said, all right, this is what it's going to take. Then I hear from a camera guy who I know, who talked to my wife and said, Scott asked me to do the birthday show, but I've just been hired by another director. I was like, what? So we call up Gary, and Gary was like, oh, how'd you find out? Like, not, sorry, I should have told you guys. I mean, we had taken these meetings and we budgeted the whole thing and we had worked on it. And it just felt like we're already down because we're looking for work now. And then he just kicked us in the nuts,
Yeah, that's a story that, I moved on. I didn't really look back, but that was the hardest pill to swallow. That was just classless and disgusting. Let's not sugarcoat it. That was pathetic and really just unforgivable. And why it was done, I don't know, but I know that didn't just sting. That hurt, and it hurt Scott. It hurt everyone on the TV team. People were just in disbelief. And then to make it even worse, not one person from the TV crew was even invited to the actual party after that classless act. And then on top of that, there were empty seats that they were handing out free tickets on the street to strangers the night of the event. So
yeah, we were told there were no seats left.
That what?
We were told there were no seats left. That's why we couldn't go.
Yeah, and I was told directly from someone why we weren't invited, and it was someone's decision who came on board late and late in the game. I don't know what the vendetta was, or what kind of mindset, or what kind of insanity was going on, where you rationalize and justify not inviting a loyal set of troopers after you just took the gig away from them without even telling. Listen, this is the stuff that people know about. I'm not shedding light. I'm maybe shedding a little more light on it, but these stories are out. You've heard these. That's the truth. Okay. That owed everyone an apology, but of course not, because that's not the way it works over there.
How do you? I mean, Baba Booey's been there forever. He's very loyal to Howard. Do you just chalk it up to that, or do you go, come on, be a human being?
I don't think Gary had anything to do with it.
I'm just saying anything that happens with Gary and just he's been shit on for so many years, but has a huge house, has beautiful stools in his basement. Is that just what it kind of is? Is that he's just a loyal soldier and he's going to retire happy and wealthy?
He's not going to ruffle any feathers. He's got a great gig. Listen, he's ridden the wave for this long, and he's probably close to retirement age. So I get after the next contract, he's probably done.
I don't think Gary was going to go to bat for me anytime soon after the whole sleeping video that Doug really was responsible for. But I took the heat.
I just watched that again I do research here, and the research is watching old clips on YouTube, and that is hilarious. I mean, just some of the stuff that goes on. Now, do you guys watch YouTube and look at some of these old things, or is it, I did it, I don't care, I'm not that big a fan, I'm pissed off, or whatever?
I mean, a lot of people, I'll be on the golf course, and a lot of people ask me Stern stories, and I always come up with the same 4 or 5 stories, and I'm like, so every once in a while, I'll look for something and watch something, and it reminds me. But no, I don't really do a lot of Howard Stern YouTube watching. Because, ultimately I feel like that's partly why the show went away. YouTube killed our job.
YouTube was a big problem. We couldn't keep up with the piracy. And for every show we would get taken down by the legal team, 10 of them would go up, to the point where we'd see a direct correlation with subscriptions starting to go down as the content on YouTube went up. And it was in the infancy of piracy, basically, with people putting so much stuff up on YouTube and stealing. They just couldn't control it.
I could see that, but it's like Napster. I love it. It gives me an outlet here. People steal this show.
So tell me, what did you watch? What did you watch that you enjoyed?
Just of this, I saw you and Jason, your good Jason stuff, of course. There's the Al Franken arguments there, of course. The Gary saga. There's like 8 hours of that with you, the camera. Because you're right. Then it went into the wrap-up show, and then what he says on the wrap-up show then becomes fodder the next day on the show. So it's funny. Tell me, so these times where Artie, I love Artie, I miss Artie, I ask everybody about Artie, but Scott, tell me about these times when you're watching him fall asleep, or you're watching him fight Teddy or Sal, and I mean, did you have sense that there was issues with him, or did you feel weird about showing this, or was it, hey, it's a big party, Artie's laughing at it, it's fun?
I literally had no idea he was doing drugs until after he would say it each time. Then I'd be like, oh, but then the next time I would give him the benefit of the doubt. And again, he must just be tired because he was up all night long. I don't know. But, there became a time when the eyes start rolling into the back of his head sort of stuff. And the eyes, the lids are like half open. And, I had a camera on him. I felt like I had to do my job and capture it, but I felt guilty for it. And the extent that it was funny and he played along, like putting the bed out there so he could take a nap during the interview. Who was being interviewed when he's sleeping there? She's talking about her like,
was it Avril Lavigne, or
she's talking about an award she won or something, and here's Artie just snoring on the bed. It was so funny. But so the extent we can make fun of it, it was great, but ultimately it was sad, and Artie was a good friend, and generally the funniest person that worked in that whole 20 years of the show. And I just hope he figures it out, You
don't keep in touch with him, right?
He changes his phone number all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll call him once a year, maybe, when I find a new phone number, and we'll talk for a little while, and then he disappears again. So,
Doug, I was listening again, doing research, but I forgot about this. You met O.J. Simpson on the golf course and asked him to come on the show. I didn't prep you for this story, but again, as I'm doing research, and I'm like, I remember him telling that story. Do you want to relay that here, or do you remember?
I don't think I met OJ on the golf course.
Was it not? Okay, evidently.
No, that's not Doug. That was the guy in L.A.
Gary Garver.
Who was the guy in Vegas who
Gary Garver
had a fight with?
Oh, Gary Garver?
Yeah, that was Gary Garver.
Yeah, your research sucks, Brad.
Well, I will send you the link of you telling the story, Doug, that I talked to OJ.
I met him at a bar in Tampa when I was down with some friends randomly, and the guy I was with ended up knowing him, and OJ came over and gave him a big hug. It was the most awkward thing ever. It was bizarre. And then he sits down with us, and next thing you know, I'm sitting in a club with, or a bar or whatever it was, with OJ Simpson. It was really bizarre.
The juice. You see OJ. I think that's that whole time, the early 90s. I was going to ask, Scott, do you have a favorite? I always ask the Jackie era or the Artie era. Do you have, or then the third era, whatever that, the MARCI era, whatever we call it. But
they are two different eras. Jackie was more like there's a party in the studio, and Artie was more like, an SNL funny classic Dan Aykroyd bit. It was just two totally different experiences. I would probably vote for the Artie era, but Jackie was damn close second. When Billy West was there and just the howling and the laughing and here's a weird dynamic. Jackie he would write jokes and then put them into a bin that we had a camera up, and then Howard would read it, right? So whenever Howard said something anti-Fred, the first thing Fred would do is he would look over and look in the bin and see if Jackie wrote it. And then he would attack Jackie. He wouldn't come back at Howard. He'd be like, well, Jackie's a drunk.